Good evening and good morning to everyone. I am Biko Kai Supir from Long Beach, California, on the Buddhasasana program tonight. And before I begin, I would like to pay my homage to the Triple Gems, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, with my high respect and my mutual respect to all venerable monks who happen to watch this program. And today we are very fortunate to have three speakers, three guests on this program. And our topic today is Dhammayatra by Samdech Maha Ghosananda. We want to explore on his works, and we also would like to learn more about his background, his works, and his accomplishment. So today we have invited three speakers. Most Venerable Dr. Yan Seng Yet from Boston, Massachusetts, Mr. Napakadon from Madison, Wisconsin, and he's currently studying PhD. And also Mrs. Samdech from Battambang, Cambodia. And I would like to sincerely thank you for your participation on this program, and welcome to Buddhasasana program. And I hope we are going to enjoy this together. And for me personally, it is very important as a younger generation of the Cambodian people. And for this topic, on this particular topic, I really excited to discuss, because this is very important for all the younger people to learn about our scholars in the past and what can be learned from them, and then how can we pass the works to the next generation. And here we are, and I would like to proceed with Venerable Dr. Yan Seng Yet on this topic. And first of all, I would like to learn about who is Samdech Maha Ghosananda. So Venerable Yan Seng Yet, could you please share with us your personal understanding, and how can you share about his who is Samdech Maha Ghosananda? Thank you, please.
My deep respect to the Triple Gems, and warmly welcome to Egg and Serum, and especially thanks the most honorable moderator who has chaired this program for many weeks ago. And today I'm very happy to share a few thoughts on the topic of Samdech Maha Ghosananda. Venerable Maha Ghosananda is a Cambodian Buddhist monk, and he's a kind of very invisible monk in terms of Cambodian context, meaning that most of Cambodian people do not know him as he had been known to the outside world. And when I joined the Peace March in 1992, and I always listened to his Dhamma talk. Each and every of his talk, he never mentioned or talk about himself. Most of the preaching is focused on the practice of nonviolence and peaceful coexistence, and the practice of the Dhamma. But if we talk to his friends in the world, I think he has been known to he has been known to different people, and many people call him by different names. As I remember, one of the Japanese monks called him the wildflower, in terms of the Japanese perspective, meaning that very beautiful and very calm, and kind of that. And some people call him the Buddha of the battlefield. This is one of the words used by the American monk. And some people call him the hidden Arahanta. But all these title and names, I never heard him uttering by himself. So personally, I just call him a man who had done a lot for the Cambodian people.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your information. Personally, as a Cambodian monk living abroad, and you as well, Venerable Johnson, I think he has been pioneering, for Cambodian monks, Cambodian Sangha to live in different countries and to get to know the world, and the world get to know us as a Cambodia. So it is important for all of us to learn how can he engage with such activities in the international stage. And we as Cambodian, I think we need to recognize and understand this. And I would like to turn my question to Mr. I think it's better to call you Eve, right? Yeah, so it's more simple and easy, I think. And I know I have learned that you have been doing research about Samdech Maha Ghosananda, and as well you have been participating his works in Cambodia for the later generation, and I think you have learned a lot, and because a Cambodian person like me didn't really have learned anything about him. So compared to you, I think you have done more than the Cambodian people. That's why I want to pick up to raise this topic, to brought up this topic, because I think it's important for us who living abroad to learn more about him and than the foreigners. And so to you, what can you tell us? What can you share with us from your work as who he is? And yes, we'll start with the first one, and then we will continue with that. So can you share with us your perspective on what have you learned about Samdech Maha Ghosananda? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for Venerable Kai Sophia, who kindly invited me to be a part of this program, and also greetings to Venerable Yon Seng Yet and Sarom, and also greetings to all good Buddhasasana Khmer Ting Or, their Kampung Sedap Kapsai Ni. I would say, first of all, I'm so grateful to Samdech Preah Maha Ghosananda and Dhammayatra, because I have learned a lot from joining the walk throughout the years. And I would say, for the first thing, I'm unlucky and lucky at the same time. Why I start with unlucky, because basically different from Venerable Yon Seng Yet and Sarom, they are lucky to be with Maha when he was alive. So when I started to research on Maha Ghosananda and his work, I mean basically Dhammayatra, or the Peace Walk, in 2009, he already passed away since 2007. So the only way to understand him or to get to know his work is just walk. And so I learned about him from his footsteps that left behind, and under the coordination of Upasika Udom Vansiwon, who's also one of the key person in the Peace Walk. And also I learned a lot from another Kalayana Mitra, whose name is Bob Mart. I think two of you also know him well. He is a kind of the one who, these two person are always the one who keep mentoring me in terms of Maha Ghosananda and his work, and also to understand more about Dhammayatra. So it's for me, what I learned from Dhammayatra, and also the way I learned about Maha Ghosananda, is through the walks that giving me a sense that peace is not something that we, it's not something external. It's not something that separated from ourselves, that we search for it, but it's intertwining with ourselves. under the unbearable sunlight in March, how can you make yourself peaceful in that kind of situation? This is not just talking about, other conditions of peace elsewhere or outside yourself, but how can you make peace within yourself and among others, among other fellows who walk with you? I think it's very important, and I'm so grateful that Maha Ghosananda provide us this kind of methodologies for peace, that we have to live with it, and we have to learn how to make it. Yeah, so it's a kind of method that he provides. I think
Thank
this
you.
is
Yeah, thank you so much. This is this is very touching. We are all acquire for peace, and we are all hungry for peace, but we don't really how to process peace within ourselves, and at the same time sharing the peace with others. And then like Maha Ghosananda leading us and advising us to to spread it not just within yourself but people around you and throughout the world. And then this is a very important advice and an example for all of us as human beings. So welcome again, Mrs. Samdech, for joining Buddhasasana program, and also would like to learn from you as you are a participant. You have participated with the Dhammayatra or Marching for Peace, and so can you share with us your understanding, the sense of walking with Dhammayatra, walking with Samdech Maha Ghosananda? Please share with us your perspective on your personal understanding of requirement for peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. My first time experiencing Maha teaching was in 1998 when, like in Battambang, Bob, like it mentioned before, he runs courses about the lives of peacemakers around the world, whether it's Maha Ghosananda, Gandhi, kings, and other great leaders that who have done so much for world peace. And the first time when I got to know Maha, when we read about his life stories, and in one message that has really shocked me the most is when he was asked by the journalists what we should do with the Khmer Rouge. And I think he told them that, in his own words, that we have to love them. And in my whole life, like I was taught to hate these kind of people because they've done, many bad things, and like it caused so many sufferings for Cambodian people. And this monk from nowhere, I never heard of him before, even though he have led peace marches throughout the countries. But no, this is not known, too much to the generations, to my generation. But I got to know him, and the first thing that I learned is just to love the Khmer Rouge. I didn't buy that idea at all, like because I thought this monk is just, like he doesn't have any idea. He's not living in a practical world and stuff like that. But until times pass and you let that idea sink, and then I got like a time to meet him in private, with Bob's, and as it's one of the most, highlights of my life, meeting, Maha in a private house. Normally, when he was in Cambodia, there's a lot of people going in and out, meeting him. But at one time, that Bob took me to the place and met him. And I was shocked again because he do this to me. Never in my life, any monks in Cambodia or anywhere done this to me and keep serving me tea. Normally you lay people, you have to go there and you have to serve the monks, but this monk is different, completely different. He served us tea, and he just keeps smiling and talk very few words, and we spend the most wonderful evening together without saying anything much. Just be in the, like a moment in the presence of these two holy men for me, because Bob's, when Maha was alive, he called Bob Jesus. And I'm pretty sure that Bob will call him Buddha. So they both like the living Jesus and the living Buddha, and I was still young and in their present. You can imagine. They're just so wonderful. So that's why I was not surprised at all to hear friends from overseas talking about Maha, talking about his peaceful presence, even though he doesn't speak much. But his peaceful presence is enough. You know, he was called the living Buddha. He was called a baby Buddha. He was called, like the sweetest thing that they ever met. So these kind of things that, like that shouldn't be, kept within oneself. You have to help the more people to get to know how holy he is. For me, he's really, really holy. So that's why, like sometimes you don't learn much from a lot of talking, but can learn more from his peaceful presence. Yes, that's the way that I got to know Maha. Yeah, thank you.
I see. Thank you so much. So it is very impressive stories of Samdech Maha Ghosananda, and Venerable Johnson. I think we having some technical issue again. I think, but we'll keep going, and I'm going to again start with Ik. Ik. So according to your research and your engagement with foreigners, I think many journalists or uh, others that have written about Samdech Maha Ghosananda. So can you share with us what have you learned about those things about Samdech Maha Ghosananda in foreign's view, for an understanding of his works? Can you share with us of his works that foreigners or journalists who, or maybe on your research, what was the particular point or important point or important things that we all need to learn? Can you share with us or on your research as well? So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So overall, I would say most of the research and works regarding Maha Ghosananda give us a sense that we have learned a lot about Cambodia, especially the contemporary Cambodia, as the country of war and genocide and other kinds of like suffering in the past 30 to 40 years. But the works and research on Dhammayatra and also the book about Maha Ghosananda himself offer us a sense that those kind of negative things or atrocities, it's not all about Cambodia. The story of Maha Ghosananda and his legacy of the peace walk offer us a sense of hope and resilience. In terms that Cambodia, the peace walk or his work, that his footstep has been left behind. It's not only for Cambodian people. Throughout the contact with many foreign friends, I have learned a lot that his work also inspire so many people in other countries as well. That's why I think this is the most important point or the most important contribution that he offered to us. Not only Cambodian people, but also other friends around the world. And I would like to add one thing to what Sarom just talked about, the way he teach us. It's not so much about the words or the like his talk, but also the way he live with it. In Khmer we would say that ធ្វើខ្លួនជាគំនូរ or he lived his life as the example. I have one story from my professor back in the university in Thailand. She said that once upon a time during the interfaith conference in international interfaith dialogue that she was participating in there, she was arguing with anger with another scholars from another country, whether who will be the right person to talk about this topic and that topic, and who know better about Buddhism or other religion. And then Maha Ghosananda was sitting between them, between both of them arguing. And she said, to a certain moment, she noticed that all the way that they're arguing, Maha Ghosananda talked nothing. He just smiled all the time until they finished their quarrel. So what she said to me is, you know, the most important thing, sometimes you don't need to preach anybody about Dharma, but you learn from them by seeing them, you know. And that's what she learned from Maha Ghosananda, the way he make peace, you know, and teach about peace to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is very important. It's very quite deep, and we can sense it how peaceful it was, and it is very knowledgeable, and that is the kind of wisdom that we all need to study and need to absorb within ourselves to to contain more peace within one's self. And so thank you for your compliment and for your perspective on this. And whenever Dr. Yon Seng Yet, I think I'm going to touch a little bit on the Dhammayatra itself, because I think I have never talked about this. I think I have told Eek that I personally was a kid. I was born in Otaki village, and I've moved in Battambang province. I've moved to Snang commune, a bit further down, and in 1993. But I couldn't remember because I was quite young at that time. But I have seen the Dhammayatra. I've seen a lot of foreigners. I've seen the monks, and I was a kid, and then we were all the kids. They said, "Oh, the holy monk is coming." We were heard in the village, and we don't. I don't really understand what was that, and I don't, because I've never seen the monk. Because when in my village, we don't have monk yet at that time. We have a temple, but we don't have monks who residing at that temple. And fortunately, as a kid, I was carrying a basket of water, because there are people at the elders saying and telling us that, oh, the holy monk is coming, and we need to bring the basket of water. So when they walk past us, they can give us a holy water blessing. And yes, that was it's not like it was funny as a kid. You know, we were struggling from our house and then waiting along the road. At that time, that road is a national road number 10, but now they have changed it. So I was waiting, and I've seen a lot of foreigners carrying with a lot of cameras and taking pictures, and following the monks and the monk people, carrying the flags, and there was a lot that I've never seen before. And so I want to touch on that. So about marches for peace or Dhammayatra. So Dr. Yon Seng Yet, can you share with us what was the perspective and what was your experience on walking with peace, and what have you learned from the people all over the world to join that marches? So can you share with us on this particular topic, because I really want to learn about it, because I don't really know at that time. So please, thank you.
I think that walk was the third walk, and not 93. I think it was in 94 that we walked from Battambang to Thailand. At that time, Maha wanted to meet the former Khmer Rouge leaders, so he decided to lead a walk to Thailand. And in 94, I think it was, Battambang was in battle between the fight between the government and the Khmer Rouge. And actually, I saw Maha Ghosananda in 1992 when he came to my temple in refugee camp, and then he told us that in the temple in Saitu camp, he told us that it is time to walk for peace. and the Buddhist monk have to come out of the traditional temple and walk into the temple of the human beings, which full of suffering. So this is the duties of the Buddhist monk. And what struck me most at that time, I thought to myself that why this old monk speak very good English, which I don't know the language. And my teacher was the abbot of the temple, and I saw my teacher worship him. And I think that why my teacher, the highest monk, the more respectable monk in the temple, worship this handsome monk, a little bit old but very handsome and very calm. And I was the one. I was, I think, 12 years old novice. I'm the one who brought him a tea, and he just smiled at me and say nothing. And then I followed him, you know, to join the first walk. Okay, go through that walk that you mentioned. It was one of the most famous walk in '94. And at that time, we started the walk from Wat Poville in Battambang town and walk across your birthplace, Sneng. You know, on the day that we left from Wat Poville, I remember that there was not 100,000, but thousands people, the people in the town just come to kind of a sort of blessing or wishing us safe and healthy, because everybody know that the government was fighting with the Khmer Rouge in Thailand along Snang, Ratanak Mandul, and Sdao. And people were very sad and very worried that these 100 people, especially I think there was about 1,000 people at that time, about 400 or 500 monks, that these walkers will be wounded or killed by they might got caught up in the middle of the fighting. So I remember the situation that we start to step out of the Wat Poville, and the situation was very calm, and Maha did say nothing. He just walked in front of the procession, and he just smiled at the people, and he just lead the walk out of Wat Poville. And the things happen at I think Ghosananda. By those days they call that area called Ghosananda. I think it is in Sdao commune, and at that time it is in the front line between the barrel of the Khmer Rouge and the government, and we were told that we cannot walk into the battlefield because there will be a lot of casualties if Maha decided to walk into the battlefield. And then the government side told Maha that Maha, I think he talked to the commander, the military commander. I don't know who, but we know that he talked to the government side to stop, not just for kind of the temporary ceasefire, to let the walk go through the battlefield. And then we heard that the government side says it's okay, we're gonna stop, but Samdech have to go to meet the Khmer Rouge soldier and to stop fighting too. Then we both can stop. At that time, you know what, we never expect to see Maha just, he just, in front of the 1,000 eyes, the about 1,000 walkers who stand there, and he just walked into the battlefield, in front of us. And that is the moment that I have never expected that I can see such kind of the bravest human beings on earth that can walk into the battlefield. And the fighting was going on at that time, and thousands of people just stand there and pray. Then he walked into the battlefield. We didn't know what happened to him, and he disappeared into the forest, I think for about 1 hour or 2 hours. And after that, the rumor came out that Maha definitely was killed or wounded or arrested by the Khmer Rouge. And some foreigners just praying and crying, and we were very silent. And most of the people sit on the sidewalk, and some in the forest, and we were very silent, waiting for Maha to come back. But the rumors just going around that Maha might got killed or what, we don't know, because he disappeared into the forest. And after that, he came back. He just, came out of the forest, and everybody just, we say, oh, Maha came back, he's alive. But, at that moment, one soldier told me that Venerable Monk, Maha definitely got killed. If he had not been killed, he might come back now. But after that, after maybe 10 minutes, he just came out of the forest. And after that, the organizing committee told us that everybody just sit down and listen to the Dhamma preached by Maha Ghosananda. And we still have that picture. And so he started to give preaching, and I remember that Dhamma Desna, the preaching very well. He talked about I think the calmness of the mind and the non-violence, and the usefulness of how to tame our mind, how to culture our mind while we are facing the difficulties. And he said that what is the use of the spiritual practice if we are encountering the difficulties and we cannot use the spirituality to face it? What is the use of having spiritual practice? So he teaches that while we are listening, while we were listening to his talk, and then we heard the gunfire, the shelling flew over our heads and all. But one thing was, unforgettable, is those walkers sat very calm, very peacefully, silently, listening to the Maha Ghosananda preaching without disturbance by the gunfire or the fighting while we are in the midst of the fighting. And I think at that moment, I see him something different whom I saw before. Before, I just see him as just a monk, just an old monk who speak very good English, speak very good French, speak very good Thai. And I never see that this kind of bravery inside his heart, that he could walk into the battlefield. From that day on, I think this is the only living Buddhist monk who preached the Dhamma in the battlefield after the Buddha did 2,500 years ago in Jumbutipa in modern India. Yes. And after his preaching, we just got back because there are so many problems that I can share later. And at that moment, I think I saw many people just shed the tears, and some foreigners also cry. Maybe not because of whatever reason, but I think maybe they see that kind of braveness that he tried to teach or to show the importance of the non-violence and the peaceful that Cambodian needed at that moment to end the war.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the details. Actually, my birthplace was in Otaki village. Otaki commune now is in in 1993. That is what I can recall. In 1993, because of the poverty, my families moved from that village to my village was Rumjay village, and after that 1994, after that Dhammayatra, my family and all the villagers, we were suffering greatly because of the continuing war. The battle between the government and the Khmer Rouge was continuing until 1996, and I still remember that we had to leave our village because most of the village was ambushed, was attacked by the Khmer Rouge, especially my village as well. Because along I know all, but I don't want to mention all along the way. I know all the village along the way to until Pailin, and we were back and forth. The government troops was sending additional forces to the area, and we were the Khmer Rouge trying to take over Battambang province at that time in 1994, 1995. I think I had to I have to stay away because the attack is like back and forth for many times. When the government forces weaken and the Khmer Rouge forces attack and continue to trying to cover. And then it's not only me. At some time I was wondering as a younger generation, why do I have to endure that kind of suffering that I don't really understand what was going on about the war. And then as you said, I have no idea what is non-violent, what is the peace, what is it, because we as a young kid we are just want to live, we want to enjoy our childhoods, and we know nothing about all of this. And after the scene that that I saw at that time is that after we carry the basket of water for blessings, and then after a moment, I think they are leaving at morning around 11, or I'm not sure. I'm not quite remember, but at the evening time, we saw some of the marchers, the walkers, heading back, and then we along the way in the village, we heard that all monks were being killed by the Khmer Rouge and stuff. We don't really know what happened. And then when we saw that sign, and then the elders in the village were saying that the trouble is coming.
I survived the attack in Hiroshima. I was in the forefront where I'm holding the peace banner, the Japanese peace banner, when the attack came, and some of my friends got killed and wounded, and luckily I survived the attack.
So that is a lot of stories about this, and then not only us, I think we are that are enduring this suffering. But the later on, the people in the village, many village from Sadao backward to the Battambang province. Along the way, we were attacked by the forces, and we don't know what was going on at that time, because we don't have this internet connection, we don't have radios, we don't have TV, we have nothing. We don't even have the grocery or a shop that buy things. We have nothing at that time. And yeah, so what I would like to learn from Miss Saramse as well, as you personally participated in this Dhammayatra, and what can you tell us? What can you share with us the perspective, and what have you learned from that, and about the people from all over the world who have joined the Dhammayatra? And so please share with us. Thank you.
Yes, I think the original idea of the walk, that's what I was told. Maha thought it just only one time, in the early days, and then finish. But the beauties of the walk keeps people together. It is not just only one time. Maha keep leading, into the years to come until the next one, Bong Sivon, took over, and unfortunately she passed away. And now we have a group of people who are willing to continue. So this is the continual walk. For Maha, like walk Dhammayatras doesn't belong to anyone. It's just the Dhamma teachings. It's the way of life. It's what you do, every day. But for the spirit of Maha, that's what we, those who follow him and those who love him want to keep the spirit alive, want to continue Maha's spirit. Maha was known as Gandhi of Cambodia because of his teachings of nonviolence and his peaceful presence. And you will hear a lot of people have many stories about very, very good, very impressive stories about Maha. And like Bong Liet has mentioned, she's have brought the word engaged Buddhism, that the Buddhism is not just only in the temple. You have to go to where there is suffering. I remember 4 things that he say that you have to go to the ghettos, to help the poor, go to prisons, to go to the battlefield, and to go to where there's suffering. So this is what Mahas want, us, to do. So the story that Bonghyat has shared today is very inspiring, because that shows that he's, not just only a monk, he's have in his experiences have practiced many years of intellectuals, so academic in India, and then spent almost 10 years meditating, just only meditating in Thailand, in the forests of Thailand. So he got that abilities to, to heal people. So when he come, like the Khmer was, like they wiped out all religion, not just only Buddhism, but all religions was wiped out during the Khmer Rouge. And Cambodian people haven't seen monks for years during the Khmer Rouge. And when Maha know that it's time for him to come out of the forest to serve the people. So in early in 78, when the first, Khmer Rouge refugees fled the countries and going to various countries, especially in Thailand. So it's the first time that the people saw the monk, in the orange robe that they haven't seen for like a very long time. So they start crying. Is that, like it's just, that's why they asked Maha why the Khmer can't kill Buddhism, because he said it's in the blood. It's in Cambodian blood. You can't kill what is in the blood. So I think he's bring hope. He trying to get rid of the fear of the people during the war, and his teachings, like we all mentioned, is all about example. And the good thing that I heard a lot of people talking about him is his, ability to talk to the commoner, to the common people. Teaching, like preaching, I found it's quite boring in the past, because the ability, the monks teach or preach is quite boring. It's not, probably in the past, they don't know how, didn't know how to, talk to the heart of the people, talk to the people. But this monk, even though he's, finished PhDs, have many years of experience of meditation, but he talk very simple. And his teaching is very simple. The 5 precepts. If you want to end well, just go to the 5 precepts. That's why I love Fang Sivon, because she keeps teaching this very, very simple but very difficult to do. Yeah, the 5 precepts, and the 3, like you how to do good, avoid doing bad, and purify your mind. It's a very basic teaching of Buddhism that everybody can, understand. So this is why I remember the word of some very famous people. They say that, an intellectual, they make, like simple thing into explaining in a very hard way. But an artist, they know how to make the hard way to explain it in a very simple way, the hard way. So this is what Maha is all about. He know how to talk to the people. We know how to capture the mind of the people. That's why he was loved, and respected. So for me, that's his example. That's the way he is, and also the work. Recently, because in Battambang we have a peace reading course, and we have taught many courses, and the student wanted to, to do something that, even though Maha works there continues in every aspect of our lives in many areas, but the former student still wanted to have the form, like a something that we can remember Maha. And that's what I was told, and Bob also said, and we who understand Maha well said, that, what you're doing is not just, like it doesn't attach to any title that you have to be Dhammayatra to do this and do that. Whatever you do every day that bring hopes or bring love or, any kind of helping or serving that you've done to other fellow human beings is the work of the Dhammayatra. It's the work of Maha. And that's the way that you keep the spirit alive. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is the story is very compelling. It's very important for all of us to learn. And I would like to turn to Ik again. As you are, at the beginning, as you are a foreigner, you didn't speak much the language. So what inspired you to, to go deeper? This is the first time that I've heard someone who are inspired to study about Samdech Maha Ghosananda, and you also speak the language very well. And it's sometimes it's very difficult for foreigners when you don't really have much information to go into the details of the topics, the particular topics that you want to research about. And so, can you tell us what inspired you to do this kind of research about, and what was his teaching that's touching your heart about his his working? for the world peace. So could you please share with us your inspiration? The inspiration that dragged you into Cambodia for a number of years. So this is very interesting story. So could you please share with us? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I would say indirectly, Dhammayatra or the legacy of Maha that he left behind offer me not only the Dharma or the peace lessons, but also my Khmer language competence. Because, the best way to learn language is, to be with the native speaker. And by participating in Dhammayatra, you are automatically getting into an intensive course. For example, because you live with the participants, the walkers, 24 hours a day. So any kind of vocabularies that you are not familiar with, you still have to use like your body language or your human language, trying to communicate what you want, and then the participants in the walk would teach you properly or correctly how would you say this and that in Khmer, for example. So this is a kind of an indirect contribution from Dhammayatra to myself. But another thing that's linked to my personal interest is also, and actually at the time that I started to work or research on Dhammayatra, I also, encounter with my personal suffering, I would say. And, once I got to know the work of Maha and also the works of Dhammayatra as his legacy, I come up with the understanding, that there's a notion by the Cambodian people after the war and the genocide that their suffering is so deep, and there's no how to say, you suffer most in the world. But it just like my feeling at the time, that's I just feel that I'm the only person who suffer most in the world. So I share with them that kind of feeling. But after I learned the stories that the Cambodian people have encountered throughout the years of the war, and they survive and they come up with this Dhammayatra or the peace walk, I feel that your world of suffering has been shared with other people, and also the peace is possible. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Now I can't see other people.
Can you hear me?
I'm still here.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can hear all of you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we just the controller
You disappear. All of you disappear.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not disappearing.
Okay, but can you hear me during your?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I would like to add how to say the two examples added to the perspective that Sarom just shared with us. In the walk throughout the year, I also have a foreign friend who participated in a walk as well. And the first years that he participated in the walk, he always asked me and asked everybody in terms of the WH question, when we're gonna arrive at this temple, what time should we eat, or all the time. It's a kind of typical thing that he's curious. But walking with Dhammayatra, we can see the lived Dharma in the sense that, we have learned a lot from the preaching, from the Dharma books about impermanence, right? But this is a kind of thing that we directly experience. Sometimes we set up the walking route that will pass through this forest, and immediately some villagers came to us and asked, well, this is probably the only time in their life that they will experience such a big number of monks, and also offer us the water blessing along the way that we walk. Would you mind, diverting your direction of walk to, passing through the market rather than, going through the forest directed to the another temple? If things can always keep changing, and you have to be ready for that, and not suffering by any kind of impermanence happening along the way that you experience. So throughout the years that my foreign friend participated in the walk, I can notice that less and less this kind of what, where, when, why, how questions has been less and less as well. I think, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So your story is very, very touching. I just want to learn that how can these Dhammayatras inspire people to participate, and especially particularly the foreigners, because as a Cambodian, I think we still have a less number than some foreigners in abroad who are interested about the peace in Cambodia and the suffering that the Cambodian people are enduring for the number of decades. So,
excuse me, Venerable, may I add another example? Added to the point of Sarom about simplicity of Dharma that he teach as well, because I immediately another friend's experience coming into my mind. I think Father Ingen. He is a Korean father, Catholic father, right? He told me one time that Maha Ghosananda is not only famous in terms of peacemaker, but also a meditation master. In a way that he is famous to many Cambodian Buddhists. So he is kind of curious to ask him a question about meditation. So he went to him, I think in Wat Sampomia in Phnom Penh at the time, and asking him how would you respond to me, because I'm quite curious when I start to meditate. I was always disturbed by mosquito, especially mosquito bite. And he would expect, a kind of sophisticated response from this meditation master. But the response from Maha is, well, I know this is too bad, right? So next time you should find your mosquito net before you start to meditate,
Yeah, so it's all back to the simplicity.
Yes, exactly.
So life live with the simple way, and understand the circumstances that you are in, and find the suitable way for yourself, and you can overcome it immediately. So yeah, I also whenever Dr. Yuan saying it, I'm curious about this. How can his Dhammayatra inspire foreigners and people as a whole to join him? Or what have you learned as you have participated the walk, and how can his legacy, how can his example encourage people to join him to walk for peace, and not just Cambodian but foreigners. We have seen a lot. So what have you learned about it? Can you share with us your personal experiences? Thank you.
By nature, Maha is a very quiet man, not talkative man, and his preaching is kind of boring too sometimes. Yeah, I start to appreciate his teaching deeply only once I came to Harvard University and read all those scriptures and writings and listening to his talk, and I start to feel that the preaching are very deep. But the way he talk, he's not really a talkative man simply. But I see one thing in his greatness. I see one thing. One of his greatness is, I think his life is his message. That's why it inspired other people. And he's kind of person who, you know, anyone who had met him will fall in love with him. Kind of that, you know. And it is difficult for them to describe why he likes him. But he feels they feel some kind of, this man is very good man, very holy man. I have one story. For my first year at Harvard University, one lady came to me and asked me, "Do you know Maha Ghosananda?" I said, "Yes." I joined his work. I joined his movement, peace movement, and she just said her tears. The tear rolled down from her eyes, and she said, Maha, such a holy man I have never met in my life. And at that moment, I feel that maybe this lady did not read about Maha much or hear about his preaching, but she said that she met him only one time at Harvard University. And so she said that she feels some kind of being connected personally with the man. And so simply, I can say that his life is kind of his message. That's why it, you know, kind of inspired other people. And the other things that I can share in this, because Maha was, I think, the only monk, was the only Cambodian monk in 1979 who went to meet the first wave of the refugees along the Thai border in 1979. That at that time, I think about 100,000 Cambodian refugees just ran away from the fighting, and they escaped the fighting, and they settled down along the Thai-Cambodian border. And Maha was the Cambodian monk who met those refugees people, the traumatized people. And at that time, he preached the sutta, called it the Metta Sutta, the sutta which teach about the loving kindness. And it was a sort of the reintroduction of Cambodian Buddhism back to Cambodian life, which had been lost almost 4 years. So Maha had been well known to the outsider, I think, since 1979. And that's why his kind of connection and his network, with the help of Cambodian people overseas and his foreign friends. That's why they join him, they help him to organize the Dhammayatra. Maha was the kind of the central figure, kind of the leader in the kind of spiritual leader of the Dhammayatra movement. But there are many people who behind his back, who helped to organize the work, I think, yeah, because I think they know him well, that what he's doing. That's why they join him.
I see. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we are running out of time right now, and this will be the first part, and we will be doing this for the next part, the second part of this talk about this topic. And I will I would like to inform all of you that you are being invited to join again for next week. So we will be going further on this topic about his work in international stage, and how can we follow his footsteps as a younger generation, and how can we apply this most of his teaching into practice for our daily life, especially to the people in as a whole, for those who are listening, who have learned about his work and his teaching. But before we ending up, I would like to give each of you less than 1 minute to sum up your feeling about this topic or your personal understanding about his work. So I would like to start with Mrs. Samdech first. How are you feeling about, or what have you learned, and how would you like to encourage people to learn about Samdech Maha Ghosananda so they can gain more peaceful in their life? So less than 1 minute, please. Thank you, Mr. Cesar.
Yeah. For me, for Maha, he's attached to nothing. That's why we never ever have any kind of formal forms of Maha followers or Maha students. So his teaching is universal and it's basic, and it's based on the Buddha's teaching. If you want to have peace, first you have to have peace. If you want others to have peace, first you have to have peace, within yourself. And the idea of serving, when we were in the course, before we studying about the lives of other people, we have to get to know our heroes, the Maha first. And we was, asked to recite, it's just like a slogan of Maha. And it's go like, the world is our house, and all human beings are our brothers and sisters. To love them, to help them, to serve them is our duties and our religion. So we can see that Mahat not just only working for Cambodia, like for him the whole world is his family. Yeah, he spent his whole life working for people of Cambodia as well as people around the world. And so it's not just like between us and them, but we. So this is what I've learned, and I want people to help to understand my ideas more. But just wanting is an ego. And when Maha is an egoless person, a holy person. So it just doing whatever you can, and wherever you are, if you see something, go due to the place and help as much as you can. So that's what Maha's teachings, and that's what we want to see it happen here in Cambodia as well as around the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the same things. Please share with us.
I would say the overall lessons I have learned from Maha Ghosananda, from his life and also from his work, and like Dhammayatra, for example, is something that we can think about in a midst of atrocities, suffering, or crisis. Like the work of Dhammayatra that's born out of the aftermath of the genocide. Currently we are all now facing so much atrocities as well. The pandemic, the economic regression, right? The stress, and in Cambodia, in Cambodian case now, the flood, right? Yeah, almost all over the country, and especially in the bigger cities. I think one thing that he teach us, or the Dhammayatra teach us, it's about the possibility, So amidst the atrocities, or at the heart of sufferings, peace always possible. I think this is the main thing I learned about Dhammayatra.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Johnson. Please.
I'm going to share one of his speech. He said that if we listen to the Buddha, to the Christ, to the Allah, we can do nothing else. We Buddhists must find the courage to leave our temples and enter into the temples of the human experiences, temples that are filled with sufferings, the refugee camps, the prisons, the ghettos, and the battlefields then become our temples. We have so much works to do. In this statement, he encouraged the Buddhist monk to get out of the traditional temple, meaning that the resident monks must get out of the temple and walk into the temple of the human world, meaning that monks must come out of the temple and do something when the people are facing the difficulties or they are suffering. For example, like nowadays in Cambodia, Cambodia is being flooded heavily, very badly. So I see many monks come out of the temple and help them, whatever possibility can be taken to alleviate their sufferings. That is the best example. That is the right way, the correct path that the monks are walking on. Monks cannot just keep praying while the people living outside the temple are suffering. That is not the Buddhist path. So Maha Ghosananda again and again always told the Buddhist monk to get out of the temple and help the people when they are suffering. And please give me few more seconds. I remember there is another statement that he told the people, Cambodian people, especially in 1979, when he appealed for the end of the conflict, the fighting, and he appealed for the unity of Cambodians people those days in 1979. You know, and he said the statement is very impressive, which can be learned. He said, right now, Cambodian people have nothing left except forgiveness and compassion. To end the conflict, it has to begin with what is right and what is wrong, not who is right and who is wrong. So I think the beginning point, the stepping point that he asked for the unity is not about who is right and who is wrong. We have to start with what is right and what is wrong first. If we start with who is wrong and who is right, then the reconciliation, the end of the conflict cannot be started, cannot be established. So his approach to end the conflict for the conflict resolution is to ask what is right and what is wrong, not who is right, who is wrong. That is the meaning that he preached the term forgiveness and compassion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This will be discussing for the next week. That's what I would like to focus on for next week. How can he disseminating the teaching of the Buddha into the international stage, and how can he raise the work for peace, or how can he brought it into the international communities? So all of these things that we need to learn, and in order to follow us for the next generation to follow his step, because I think it is important for all of us to learn it. How can he raise this awareness that peace is possible, not just for among the Cambodian people, but throughout the world, and especially in the international communities, that they are interested and they have paid attention in the suffering and disseminating the peace to other countries that are suffering as well in the world, because not just Cambodia at that time, I think. So yes, thank you so much for your contribution, for your effort and spending this precious time with us. And I hope that people will learn something from this topic. Well, those who are listening to our discussion, I hope peace be upon to all of us and people around the world, and may all beings be peaceful with the power of the Dhamma and the meritorious acts that he has left behind, and all the people who have done and shared with the sentient beings. And I hope to see you for next week. And yes, we will be focusing on those works that he has done. And thank you so much again, Venerable Dr. Yan Seng Yet, Ik from Madison, Wisconsin, and Ms. Samdech from Battambang, Cambodia. And I will see you next week. And may all of this meritorious deeds that we sharing be shared to all the people who are listening, and as well as to all the sentient beings. And please be safe and stay healthy and be mindful while living your life, because the pandemic is still continuing, especially in the United States. There are many states that are, affected by this pandemic. So I hope all of you are very well, and we will see you next week. And may all the monks who are listening to this program as well, and all the people, be safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.